we'll have a little bit of a look ahead at the elections and all the politicking that's going to go down in England.
Okay.
So on Thursday, it's just a bit of a look ahead. On Thursday, there's all sorts of elections going to happen in Britain. There's the local elections, voting for councillors, but also some mayoral elections and a by-election for an MP. So a whole bunch going down. I imagine probably on Friday, or maybe even on the following Monday, but on Friday or Monday, someone or other, it might be me, hopefully me, will talk all about the results. Okay. So this is just sort of a look ahead, sort of a bit of a heads up, and just a little bit of a chat about what we might expect.
Looking at the Palantir.
Yeah.
And trying to see what the orbs.
Yeah, looking to the crystal ball.
Yeah.
See if we can see what might happen, make some predictions. Okay, one of the first things I want to say, especially for people who are younger, who might not know much about this, or people that are foreign, that don't know about our sort of local politics. Anyone that's an old hat and British, this will all be obvious in what I'm about to say. But okay, so the thing is, the mainstream media and all the sort of the chattering classes, they always do the same thing, is that whatever happens in local elections, they say, oh, this is a bellwether for what's going to happen in the next general election. And it very rarely is. Sometimes it is, but nearly always it's not. Because people vote differently in local elections. In America, right, if anyone out there, you probably have different things on your mind when you're voting for your state senate and your state congress or your governor to what you vote for the National Congress in Washington or the president. It's just a whole different set of calculations. Turnout is always lower, way lower. People want their councils often run with a different frame of mind or a different political economic philosophy than what they want their actual MP in Westminster to do. So there you go. And the exact same thing, what I just said, goes for by-elections. Someone will win a by-election, like I'm making this up now, but say the Lib Dems win a by-election against the odds. Everyone says, oh, the Lib Dems are going to do brilliantly then at the next general election because that's the trend, that's what people want now. And it never really pans out like that. Nonetheless, I think it is important. The other thing is that a lot of people think, I used to think when I was younger, all through my 20s, I used to think that local elections, it just didn't matter. Who cares? It's a big deal, but it really does matter. In some senses, in some ways, it matters more than who your MP is. Because you can vote for your MP and they're just a backbencher, or they're in opposition, effectively got no power over government policy anyway. In fact, that will be most people. Their MP has got they could even be in the party of government, but they're a backbencher and the leadership of the party don't care what they think. So, but when it comes to the local elections, they're the people that run the budget for where you live, getting your bins collected, filling in potholes, all that stuff. It actually matters in a day-to-day.
Yeah. I have a question. Wouldn't you say that these people could be involved in, let's say, government, not necessarily directly, but indirectly? They could work behind the scenes. Because most people are focusing on the prime minister and, in a sense, the leaders of the parties, but a lot of work is being done, from the other people. I don't know. Or would you say that this is crazily misrepresenting?
Yeah, it's quite optimistic, I think.
Okay.
For example, if you've got the Tory government or a Labour government,
yeah,
the leadership, the cabinet,
could be party.
The cabinet, they're not asking their councillors what they think about things.
Okay.
And, you might get the odd one. You might get the odd councillor who's actually genuinely a friend with the Foreign Secretary or something.
Okay.
So it's not unheard of. It's not impossible by any means, but not really. Not really.
It's not like, the MPs, the ones who are popular. The others have lots of the councillors have lots of info about them, and they call the shots behind them.
No, although there is the odd exception. For example, Labour have got Andy Burnham is mayor of Manchester. Yeah. So he's sort of a grandee. He's sort of a big beast, even though he's not an MP. He's actually a big. Or let's look at Sadiq Khan. Yeah. Right, he's not an MP. He doesn't sit in Westminster. He's not in cabinet, but he's sort of a powerful voice within the party. Or as we'll talk about a bit later, Aaron Banks for Reform is standing to be a mayor. So, and he's an important voice. Like Nigel will probably sit down with him and have lunches and dinners and ask what he thinks about things. So there are exceptions. There can be certainly exceptions, but your average councillor doesn't get anywhere near the policy of the whole party, usually.
Are they the ones responsible for the constant rising of the council tax?
Oh, well, that's a much bigger question.
Okay.
Again, it's not usually
the
individual councillor, but I mean, that's a big complicated maelstrom of a question there. But okay, so let's have a quick look at what it is. So it's just in the news a bit, just to show people. Look, the Independent is saying, just looking ahead. The next one. Can you go to the next one? Who's it? All right. So the Telegraph, key seats to watch. But if we go to
they're going to debate the height of the hedgerows.
Yeah, right. It's all stuff like that. Yeah, but it's actually important, isn't it? Your day-to-day thing. Whether if your council goes bust financially, for example, it would be a very, very real impact to your day-to-day life potentially. So sort of it does matter. The older I've got, the more I've realised something or other happens. It's like, oh, the council decided that. That didn't come from Westminster. The council decided that my life is now different because the bus route's been cancelled, or the bins aren't being collected, or there's no police on the streets anymore. It's because the council buggered up, not the dude sitting in Parliament. So it does matter. Okay, on this one, if we could scroll down a bit. We scroll down to... keep going. There you go, up a bit. A little bit more. There you go. This set of videos they've made there encapsulates everything you sort of need to know in a way. So first of all, to say that the Tories control loads of the councils. If you've got enough councillors all from the same party, it's said that they control the council. Obviously. But lots and lots of councils, you don't have a majority of any one party. Loads of them, like half of them or something. A lot of them anyway. They're not controlled by any one party, so there will always be sort of horse trading stuff. The idea, the best thing is, the true win, is if your party, quote unquote, controls the council. So out of the ones that are controlled by a single party, the Tories at the moment are quite dominant. Last time it all went to the polls was in 2021. And at that point, it was Boris, and he was still riding the crest of a positive, optimistic wave at that point. And Labour were massively out of fashion, out of favour, still dealing with sort of the Corbyn
destruction
stuff. Yeah. So in the last big local elections, the Tories got, I wouldn't quite say a landslide, but they did very, 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 very well. So now this time, just the way, apart from anything else, the way the pendulum swings, the Tories are set to lose loads. I mean, in this election, there's going to be 1,641 seats are going to be up for grabs in 37 different councils. And as it stands, 1,182 of those are Tory. So dominated by the Tories.
Yeah.
So even if there wasn't for Kemi Badenoch and the way the Tories have from Westminster have run the country into the ground over that 14-year period. Even if it weren't for that, you would expect the Tories to lose a bunch just because. So from the Tory point of view, you can see on the far right there, Badenoch warns Tories of difficult local elections. Yeah, you're going to get pwned. They're going to get their asses handed to them. And of course, the chattering classes, perhaps even including us, will point at it and say, look, Kemi Badenoch's a terrible leader.
Yeah.
Look how terribly she's done. I mean, and it's not really fair because it was going to happen anyway. It was going to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, wouldn't you say that her attack on the sandwich as not being a real food would actually cost people?
No one...
Would cost in that election.
She's not popular. Nobody really likes her. The only people that really likes her is... a bunch of Tory MPs, obviously in the leadership election.
She won, how diverse they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, virtue signalling.
Yeah,
not realising that the Rishi thing didn't work, and that your average person, your average Conservative person with a small c, is not up for being led by a Nigerian immigrant. So yeah, there's a big bunch of the Conservative Parliamentary Party that like her and want her, and not many others.
Yeah.
She's not broadly popular, right? I don't know anyone, even like diehard Tory supporters in real life, that is enthusiastic about Kemi Badenoch.
Haven't heard either. I've just seen some people who are posting really cringe stuff that are obviously forced
Right.
on X.
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
I haven't heard. There seems to be no organic support.
Yeah. There's certain people who vast numbers of people get enthusiastic about. In hindsight, they nearly always turn out to be a bit of a disaster. But a few examples off the top of my head. Nelson Mandela. When Nelson Mandela in the 90s was allowed finally to run for president, it was sort of like a vote against him is a vote against hope. And it was the same with Obama in 2008. I mean, Obama now is thought of by a lot of people, certainly on our side of the aisle, as a complete disaster. But in 2008, it was like, who's going to vote for John McCain?
Yes.
You've got to vote for Obama. It's the future, right? I remember in
Yes, we can.
I remember in 1997, I was like, 16 years old or something. So old enough to fully remember it and be taking note of things. Yeah. And even though Tony Blair now is sort of as the Dark Lord and the root of all evil, believe me, in 1997, he was the bright new shining hope. Yeah. John Major and the Tories were old and grey and broken and bad.
Wrapped.
And and Tony Blair, Mr. Blair, was young, charismatic, good looking. He was like John Kennedy. He was like, who is not voting for this guy? Yeah. Right? Okay. Kemi Badenoch isn't that. No one's dying to see a Kemi Badenoch premiership, are they? So expect to lose, she's basically saying. And yeah, I bet that will happen. Let's see, the Greens. Who cares about the Greens? They're insane.
They constantly find themselves in coalition governments, though.
What, in other countries?
In other countries.
Oh, right, yeah. Here, I mean, it's funny, really, the Greens. There's a few small pockets. I mean, Britain is so sort of got what's the word to say? Just sort of small pockets that will vote certain ways, and that's what the Greens have got. Yeah. Like literally a few small enclaves that are likely to vote Green. Beyond that, it's laughable, isn't it? Okay, Labour, because they're already at such a low ebb, without even sort of really trying, that's not really the right way of putting it, but I'm sure the people on the ground are trying really hard, but without even going full bore, sort of total war footing, they're gonna pick up a bunch of
Conan the Barbarian style.
Yeah. They're still going to pick up a bunch of seats and a few councils. Oh yeah, sure. Just because the Tories are going to lose so many. Now, the Lib Dems, they will probably do reasonably well. Well, everyone's going to do well apart from the Tories is probably what's going to happen. The Lib Dems, which you can see there, aim to become the party of Middle England. Yeah, middle class, Middle England, midwit. Yeah, mid everything. But they'll probably pick up a few. But so now the big story is reform. They're set to do quite well, it looks like, if we believe the polls. I mean, really quite well. They might pick up, well, they will certainly pick up, I would have thought, dozens and dozens of councillors, maybe in the low hundreds. Maybe. Now, one thing I've got to say, if anyone that doesn't know, my history with reform and the amount of shade I throw at Nigel and Zia Youssef and Richard Tice on Twitter or whatever. One thing I will say is, when I was involved with reform, your average person, your average volunteer were diamond. They were the salt of the earth people. They were good, honest, hard-working, sort of middle class and working class people. And they meant well, 100%. They were just conservative people with a small c, or with a big C, that had enough of the Tories. Yeah. And so, yeah, there's another way for me to put it than that they were solid, real people. So I wish them the best in that sense. And as we said, councillors and your average foot soldier doesn't get to dictate to Nigel what his immigration policy is going to be. So I've got nothing against those people, nothing at all. In fact, I wish them well. I don't agree with the Reform leadership on loads of their policies, the key ones particularly about immigration and stuff. But I wouldn't mind seeing a few Reform councils. That'd be nice to give them a go, give them a shot, see what they can do.
Okay.
Well, why not? If nothing else, it sort of moves the Overton window a little bit to the right. If nothing else, I'll take that. It's a small win, very small, but yeah, I'll take that. If on some level you can point to a trend, as I've said earlier, albeit how sort of hollow that trend might end up being, but if you can point to a trend saying people are moving away from Tories to Reform, or moving away from Labour and Lib Dem a bit more to Reform, there's worse things that could happen, put it that way. But yeah, so it may be that Reform do quite well. I know they've been trying. I think they are standing in most places. That's a feat in and of itself.
Yeah,
that speaks of a groundswell of support.
I think there is a sort of good momentum for reform.
That is, yeah, big time.
I think this matters, and they will cash it out in a sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
That's my hunch.
I would absolutely have no problem. I'm not sort of so bitter and twisted that I resent Reform getting any councillors. No, not at all. Not at all.
You're going to campaign for Labour or something
yeah.
together. Oh my God.
No. It's all good. Whether they win any full council, like control a council, we'll see. If they do, it won't be many, probably. Who knows? But probably maybe one or two. And if they do, it'll just be interesting to see if they can actually, govern that small bit of the country better than
it could be. Because if you say that there is a huge discrepancy, which there is, between leadership and the base, and people who form the councils are people from the base as opposed to the leadership, then they as councillors wouldn't face the sort of problems or pitfalls of a potential leadership going second Kemi way.
Sorry, what do you mean?
If Farage started becoming a Tory down the line, a few months from now or a few years from now, if he essentially started saying, "No, I'm Torier than you," and he started portraying himself as the real Tory, and that would mean that the base wouldn't have to follow, and they wouldn't have to govern the councils like Tories.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that. The future's not yet written. But actually, I was watching some news earlier today, and they were talking about. It's 4 years away, so it's a long way off. Anything could happen in 4 years. But talking about the possibility of a coalition at the general election, this is, between Reform and Tories.
Yeah.
At the moment, both sides are saying they don't want that.
Do you think it could happen?
It could totally happen. Yeah. Could happen, for sure. Whether it will, I don't know. But at the moment, both Kemi and Nigel are just saying they don't want to do that. I think Nigel's position has always been, or for a long time publicly, it's been, we don't need you, you need us, if anything. When it comes to the crunch. Like, so imagine at the next general election, let's say maybe Labour get most overall MPs, or say the Tories and Reform, between them get way more MPs than Labour. So if they formed a coalition, they could be in power. What would Nigel and Kemi be saying then? Like the real reality, if that became a real reality. Probably quite different to the noises they're making right now. And you can't really blame them, because that's just you've got to deal with real life, haven't you? But okay, but that's something else. That's for the future. The other thing that's happening is some mayoral elections. I think at 5 or 6.
Are they going to be there in London?
No. I think there's one way down south, but the rest are all sort of Midlands and up north, sort of the north east mainly. So Andrew, talk about the Reform Tory nexus. Andrea Jenkins, I think, is probably going to win one is it Hull or Lincolnshire, somewhere up there. there's like sort of 4 Labour mayors which are all set to lose. I think Reform will pick up 2 of them if the polling is anywhere near correct. I think the one Aaron Banks is standing in, he's probably not going to win. But so Reform probably get a couple of mayors.
That could be good.
Not super important ones like Manchester or London or anything, of course. But in fact, another thing to mention, just to say, is that it's not
Robin
all
Hood's Bay.
it's not all the councils in Britain. There's a whole bunch of them, particularly in the southeast, which aren't having elections at the moment for sort of technical reasons because they're reworking the boundaries and a few things. But quite a lot in the southeast. So what is it? East and West Sussex, Essex, Thurrock, Hampshire, Norfolk, Suffolk, Surrey, and the Isle of Wight. They're all having their local elections next year. That's quite a big swathe. That would encompass millions and millions of people. So it's not the full shebang. It's sort of local elections light a little bit in that sense. Yes. But still. And then there's the by-election because that Labour chap punched someone, Mike Amesbury. Do you remember that?
I remember, yeah.
So he got convicted. Yeah. He went to trial and he got convicted, and he sort of has to stand down. So it triggered a by-election. If we go to the next link.
I will say, just sorry, very quickly, a small parenthesis. I find it weird that he was convicted before the other Labour councillor who was talking about throats. I think we haven't, Ricky Jones. I think we haven't heard about him in a long time. Yeah. If Samson, you know something and you can tell us if there are any updates, please tell us. But I think you remember the Labour councillor who was talking about the throats of fat. Yeah, we haven't heard about it in a long time. Yeah, delayed till August.
All right.
Close parenthesis.
Yeah. So in Runcorn and was it Helsby? Is it? Yeah. There's a by-election. Yeah, Helsby, Runcorn and Helsby, which is up in near Liverpool, isn't it? So Mike Amesbury MP decked a dude in the street late at night for, as I understand it, the guy wasn't even being that aggressive or anything. He totally didn't need to punch him. Like there's no question that it was sort of self-defense.
He thought the camera wasn't rolling.
Well, yeah,
it wasn't recording. Yeah,
yeah. I think actually, I don't want to go.
He showed him some leftist compassion.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The party of compassion. So he's sort of removed. So they've got to have a by-election now. All the pollsters are saying that this is going to be a close-run thing between Labour, a Labour replacement, and Reform. I know Reform are putting a fair amount of time and effort into it because it's a possibility they'll win. I think Labour are favourite because if we scroll down on this webpage, I keep going just to see the results. I just want to show people there you go. So it's a big majority. It's a safe Labour seat. Yeah. It's a really safe Labour seat. It's not always the case, but it's a little bit of a cliche that Liverpool vote left, that they're red. So if Reform were to win, that would be as I said right at the top. People always exaggerate the significance of by-elections. However, if Reform were to win, that'd be quite a big majority, like a majority of over 14,500 to overturn that. That's quite something. That's a bit of a turn up for the books. Yeah. I suspect they won't be able to because that is big. That is really big. Even despite the fact the MP decked someone unnecessarily. And Labour are quite unpopular generally in government. Starmer's government is pretty unpopular. Despite both those things, if I had to put a tenner on it, I'd say Labour will win. But once again, even though I've got all sorts of issues with Reform, I think they're a containment project. Okay. Despite that, I would like to see them beat Labour here.
Okay.
Why not? Why not? Yeah.
They're going to be more sensible in the council, definitely.
Yeah.
Running things.
Yeah, I just for the general, just for the optics of it, if nothing else.
Yes.
Just one in the eye to the crypto commies. I'll take that. I want that. So, okay, so a fair amount going on. In the last link I've got there, Financial Times, is it? Yeah, people just saying it will actually be close. So keep your eyes peeled for that one on Thursday. That's probably the thing that most people, certainly I, am sort of interested in. You know, the local election results come in and you sort of run your eye down it and go, huh, right, mainly. But if Reform were able to overturn Labour there, well, that would be a story. It would actually be a bit of a story. So the only last thing sort of to say is whether there'll be any of the really much smaller parties and or independents do well. I'll be interested to see that trend.
Okay.
Because when it comes to completely independent MPs in Westminster, they're quite rare. They're less rare now than they were because of the rise of sort of some Islamic ones. But all the time when I was growing up, they'd be very rare. You'd have 2 or 3. Martin Bell was always a famous one. They were really quite rare to have any independent MPs. A bit less so now. But in local elections, you're much more likely to win because, if nothing else, the turnout is much smaller, and sometimes people work really, really hard. They're literally like a local hero, right? And they literally go door to door, and people know, you know, like a residents' association type deal or a local group. It might be a really, really small ward. And everyone there, they care about one thing. They care about maybe their local hospital, and there's like a local pressure group is made to just campaign on that, and everyone in that area knows about it and votes for it. Stuff like that happens a lot more at the local level. Yeah. So anyway, I'd like to, I'd be interested to see how well independents or just much smaller parties, both left and right, like you've got like the Communist Party or the Socialist Workers' Party, or you've got the English Democrats, or UKIP, or whatever, all sorts of crazy parties, dozens of them. I'm always interested to see how they fare.
It shows trends and whether people are interested in supporting something new, as opposed to just keep voting for the same thing, even after being routinely disappointed.
And you know, everyone at Lotus Eaters and most people on our side of the aisle, and I think increasingly most people in general, I think, are rejecting the old paradigm of the only the Tories or Labour are worthy of running a council, or maybe Lib Dems at a push. Like they're like the elect of God, and anything other than them running your council is craziness. I think that paradigm is,
it's crazy youth idealism of youth.
Yeah. Let's hope that whole, as I say, that whole paradigm is not just wounded, but like shattered for good. I've got my fingers crossed for that. I think a lot of people out there have, probably a lot of our viewers. So, okay, that was just a little bit of a look ahead to what's going to happen on Thursday. And after all the results are in, we'll talk about it again.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.